carry on. Krishna consciousness lies in the positive. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we're on chapter maybe 63 or 64, depending on which book you're reading. 65, it's 65. And it's deliverance of Padraka and the king of Kasi. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Bahimam. Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rama, Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Krishna, Kesava, Bahimam. Jai. Okay. Right, here we go. So, is Pandraka, and the message, we've actually, which is very interesting. All right. So, okay. I'll read this because we may have read it before, but it put things in context. So, Pandraka has just sent Krishna a message. I am the only Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. No man can compete with me. I've descended as King Pandraka, taking compassion on the distressed conditioned souls out of my unlimited causeless mercy. You have falsely taken the position of Vasudeva without authority, but you should not propagate this false idea. You must give up your position, O descendant of the Yadu dynasty. Please give up all the symbols of Vasudeva which you have falsely assumed. And after giving up this position, come and surrender unto me. If, out of your gross impudence, you do not care for my words, then I challenge you to fight. I am inviting you to a battle in which the decision will be settled. When all the members of the royal assembly, including King Ugrasena, heard this message sent by Pandraka, they laughed very loudly for a considerable time. After enjoying the loud laughter of all the members of the assembly, Krishna replied to the messenger as follows: O messenger of Pandraka, you must carry my message to your master. He is a foolish rascal. I directly call him a rascal, and I refuse to follow his instructions. I shall never give up the symbols of Vasudeva, especially my disc. I shall use this disc to kill not only King Pandraka, but all his followers also. I shall destroy this Pandraka and his foolish associates, who merely constitute a society of cheaters and cheated. O foolish king, you will then have to conceal your face in disgrace, and when your head is severed from your body by my disc, it will be surrounded by meat-eating birds like vultures, hawks, and eagles. At that time, instead of becoming my shelter, as you have demanded, you will be subject to the mercy of these low-born birds. At that time, your body will be thrown to the dogs, who will eat it with great pleasure. The messenger carried the words of Lord Krishna to his master, Pandraka, who patiently heard all these insults without waiting any longer. Lord Krishna immediately started out on his chariot to punish the rascal Pandraka, because at that time, the king of Krsna was living with his friend, the king of Kasi. Krishna surrounded the whole city of Kasi. You got it? You got it?
I'm not sure. Am I?
King Pandraka. It's in different sections, so it's a bit awkward to find. Let's have a look. It will take a long time to find. Yeah, you might as well just read. Later you can find. If we can read from the same book, it'd help. Yeah.
King Padraka. Lives in Padraka. Yes. King Padraka was a great warrior, and as soon as he heard of Krishna's attack, he came out of the city with 2 Aukshahini divisions of soldiers. The king of Kashi was also a friend to King Pandraka, and he came out with 3 Aukshahini divisions. When the 2 kings came before Lord Krishna to oppose him, Krishna saw Pandraka face to face for the first time. Krishna saw that Pandraka had decorated himself with the symbols of the concha disc, lotus, and club. He carried a shonega bow, and on his chest was the insignia of Srivatsa. His neck was decorated with a false Kaustuba jewel, and he wore a flower garland in exact imitation of Lord Vasudeva. He was dressed in yellow silken garments, and the flag on his chariot carried the symbol of Garuda, exactly imitating Krishna's. He had a very valuable helmet on his head, and his earrings, like swordfish, glittered brilliantly. On the whole, however, his dress and makeup were clearly imitation. Anyone could understand that he was just like someone on stage playing the part of Vasudeva in false dress. When Lord Shri Krishna saw Pandraka imitating his posture and dress, he could not check his laughter, and thus he laughed with great satisfaction. The soldiers on the side of King Pandraka began to shower their weapons upon Krishna. The weapons, including various kinds of tridents, clubs, poles, lances, swords, daggers, and arrows, came flying in waves, and Krishna counteracted them. He smashed not only the weapons, but also the soldiers and assistants of Pandraka, just as during the dissolution of this universe, the fire of devastation burns everything to ashes. The elephants, chariots, horses, and infantry belonging to the opposite party were scattered by the weapons of Krishna. The whole battlefield became scattered with the bodies of animals and chariots. There were fallen horses, elephants, men, asses, and camels. Although the devastated battlefield appeared like the dancing place of Lord Shiva at the time of the dissolution of the world, the warriors on the side of Krishna were very much encouraged by seeing this, and they fought with great strength. At this time, Lord Krishna told Pandraka, Pandraka, you requested me to give up the symbols of Lord Vishnu, specifically my disc. Now I will give it up to you. Be careful. You falsely declare yourself Vasudeva, imitating me. Therefore no one is a greater fool than you. From this statement of Krishna's, it is clear that any rascal who advertises himself as God is the greatest fool.
Well done. Well done.
Suspension in human society.
Krishna continued, now, Pandraka, I shall force you to give up your false representation. You wanted me to surrender unto you. Now this is your opportunity. We shall now fight, and if I am defeated and you are victorious, I shall certainly surrender unto you. In this way, after chastising Pandraka very severely, he smashed Pandraka's chariot to pieces by shooting an arrow. With the help of his disc, he separated Pandraka's head from his body, just as Indra shaves off the peaks of mountains by striking them with his thunderbolt. Similarly, he also killed the king of Kasi with his arrows. Lord Krishna specifically arranged to throw the head of the king of Kasi into the city of Kasi itself, so that his relatives and family members could see it. Krishna did this just as a hurricane carries a lotus petal here and there. Lord Krishna killed Pandraka and his friend Kasiraj on the battlefield, and then he returned to his capital city, Dwarka. When Lord Krishna returned to the city of Dwarka, all the siddhas from the heavenly planets were singing the glories of the Lord. As far as Pandraka was concerned, somehow or other, he always thought of Lord Vasudeva by falsely dressing himself in that way, and therefore Pandraka achieved Sarupya, one of the 5 kinds of liberation, and was thus promoted to the Vaikuntha planets, where the devotees have the same bodily features as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding the 4 symbols. For actually his meditation was concentrated on the Vishnu form, but because he thought himself Lord Vishnu, it was offensive. After being killed by Krishna, however, that offence was mitigated. Thus he was given the Sarupya liberation, and he attained the same form as the Lord. When the head of the king of Kasi was thrown through the city gate, people gathered and were astonished to see the wonderful thing. When they found out that there were earrings on it, they could understand that it was someone's head. They conjectured as to whose head it might be. Some thought it was Krishna's head, because Krishna was the enemy of Kasuraj. And they calculated the king of Kasi might have thrown Krishna's head into the city so that the people might take pleasure in the enemy being killed. But they finally detected that the enemy was not Krishna, but was that, well, not Krishna's, but was that of Kasiraj himself. When this was ascertained, the queens of the king of Kasi immediately approached and began to lament the death of their husband. Our dear Lord, they cried, upon your death we've become just like dead bodies.
Found it.
Got it, well done.
The king of... Oh,
That's it.
just the thing is, mine
The-
starts in the middle of...
Yeah, I know it's different. You know, just,
Just read.
yeah, whatever.
The king of Kashi had a son whose name was Sudakshina. After observing the ritualistic funeral ceremonies, he took a vow that since Krishna was the enemy of his father, he would kill Krishna and in this way liquidate his debt to his father. Therefore, accompanied by a learned priest qualified to help him, he began to worship Mahadev, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, who is also known as Vishwanath, is the lord of the kingdom of Kashi. The temple of Lord Vishwanath is still existing in Varanasi, and many thousands of pilgrims still gather daily in that temple. By the worship of Sudakshina, Lord Shiva was very pleased, and he wanted to give a benediction to his devotee. Sudakshina's purpose was to kill Krishna, and therefore he prayed for a specific power by which to kill him. Lord Shiva advised that Sudakshina, assisted by the Brahmanas, execute the ritualistic ceremony for killing one's enemy. This ceremony is also mentioned in some of the tantras. Lord Shiva informed Sudakshina that if such a black ritualistic ceremony were performed properly, then the evil spirit named Dakshinagni would appear and then carry out any order given to him. He would have to be employed, however, to kill someone other than a qualified Brahmana. If all these conditions were met, then Dakshinagni, accompanied by Lord Shiva's ghostly companions, would fulfill the desire of Sudakshina to kill his enemy. When Sudakshina was encouraged by Lord Shiva in that way, he was sure that he would be able to kill Krishna. With a determined vow of austerity, he began to execute the black art of chanting mantras assisted by the priests. After this, out of the fire came a great demoniac form whose hair, beard, and mustache were exactly the color of hot copper. This form was very big and fierce. As the demon arose from the fire, cinders of fire emanated from the sockets of his eyes. The giant fiery demon appeared still more fierce due to the movements of his eyebrows. He exhibited long, sharp teeth and, sticking out his long tongue, licked his upper and lower lips. He was naked and he carried a big trident blazing like fire. After appearing from the fire of sacrifice, he stood, wielding the trident in his hand. Instigated by Sudakshina, the demon proceeded toward the capital city Dwarka with many hundreds of ghostly companions, and it appeared that he was going to burn all outer space to ashes. The surface of the earth trembled because of his striking steps. When he entered the city of Dwarka, all the residents panicked, just like animals in a forest fire. At that time, Krishna was playing chess in the Royal Assembly Council Hall.
All the residents of Dwarka approached and addressed him. Dear Lord of the three worlds, a great fiery demon is ready to burn the whole city of Dwarka. Please save us. Thus, after approaching Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Dwarka appealed to him for protection from the fiery demon, who had just appeared in Dwarka to devastate the whole city. Lord Krishna, who specifically protects his devotees, saw that the whole population of Dwarka was most perturbed by the presence of the great fiery demon. He immediately began to smile and assured them, "Don't worry, I shall give you all protection." The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is all-pervading. He is within everyone's heart, and he is without, also in the form of the cosmic manifestation. He could understand that the fiery demon was a creation of Lord Shiva, and in order to vanquish him, he took his Sudarshan chakra and ordered him to take the necessary steps. The Sudarshan chakra appeared with the effulgence of millions of suns, his heat being as powerful as the fire created at the end of the cosmic manifestation. By his own effulgence, the Sudarshan chakra began to illuminate the entire universe on the surface of the earth and as well as in outer space. Then the Sudarshan chakra began to freeze the fiery demon created by Lord Shiva. In this way, the fiery demon was checked by the Sudarshan chakra of Lord Krishna, And being defeated in his attempt to devastate the city of Dwarka, he turned back. Having failed to set fire to Dwarka, he went back to Varanasi, a kingdom of Kasiraj. As a result of his return, all the priests who had helped instruct the black art of mantras, along with their employer, Sudakshina, were burnt to ashes by the glaring effulgence of the fiery demon. According to the methods of black art mantras instructed in the Tantra, if the mantra fails to kill the enemy, then, because it must kill someone, it kills the original creator. Sudakshina was the originator, and the priests assisted him. Therefore, all of them were burnt to ashes. This is the way of the demons. The demons create something to kill God, but by the same weapon, the demon themselves are killed. Following just behind the fiery demon, the Sudarshan Chakra also entered Varanasi. This city of Varanasi had been very opulent and great for a very long time. And even now, the city of Varanasi is opulent and famous, and it is one of the most important cities of India. There were many big palaces, assembly houses, marketplaces,
and gates with large and very important monuments by the palaces and gates. Lecturing platforms could be found at each and every crossroad. There were buildings that housed the treasury, elephant, horses, chariots, and grain, and places for distribution of food. The city of Varanasi had been filled with all these material opulences for a very long time. But because the king of Kashi and his son Sudakshina were against Lord Krishna, the Vishnu Chakra Sudarshana, the disc weapon of Lord Krishna, devastated the whole city by burning all these important places. This excursion was more ravaging than modern bombing. The Sudarshan Chakra, having thus finished his duty, came back to his lord, Sri Krishna at Dwarka. This narration of the devastation of Varanasi by Krishna's this weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra, is transcendental and auspicious. Anyone who narrates or hears this story with faith and attention will be released from all reaction to sinful activities. This is the assurance of Shukadeva Goswami, who narrated this story to Parikshit Maharaj. This ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 66th chapter, Krishna deliverance of Paundraka and the king of Kashi. Continue, chapter 67.
Okay.
The deliverance of Dvida Gorilla. Dvidvida? Didvida. Dvi.
Dvivida or Dvidvida? Dvivida.
Dvivida. Dvivida.
Dvivida.
Okay, thank you. While Shukadeva Goswami continued to speak on the transcendental pastimes and characteristics of Lord Krishna, King Parikshit, upon hearing him, became more and more enthusiastic and wanted to hear further. Shukadeva Goswami next narrated the story of Dvivida, the gorilla who was killed by Lord Balaram. This gorilla was a great friend of Baumasura, or Narakasura, who was killed by Krishna in connection with his kidnapping 16,000 princesses from all over the world. Dvivida was the minister of King Sugriva. His brother, Mainda, was also a very powerful gorilla king. When Dvivida gorilla heard the story of his friend Baumasura's being killed by Lord Krishna, he planned to create mischief throughout the country in order to avenge the death of Baumasura. His first business was to set fires in villages, towns, and industrial and mining places, as well as in the residential quarters of the mercantile men who were busy dairy farming and protecting cows. Sometimes he would uproot a big mountain and tear it to pieces. In this way, he created great disturbances all over the country, especially in the province of Katvar. The city of Dwarka was situated in this Katvar province, and because Lord Krishna used to live in this city, Dvivida specifically made it his target of disturbance. Dvivida was as powerful as 10,000 elephants. Sometimes he would go to the seashore, and with his powerful hands he would create so much disturbance in the sea that he would flood the neighboring cities and villages. Often he would go to the hermitages of great saintly persons and sages and cause a great disturbance by smashing their beautiful gardens and orchards.
Yeah, go, sorry.
Not only did he create disturbances in that way, but sometimes he would pass urine and stool on their sacred sacrificial arenas. He would thus pollute the whole atmosphere. Is he there? Are we on the same page?
On the same page. Just carry on.
Uh-huh. He also kidnapped both men and women, taking them away from their residential places to the caves of the mountains. After putting them within the caves, he would close the entrances with large chunks of stone, like the bringi insect, which arrests and carries away many flies and other insects, and puts them within the holes of the tree where it lives. Thus, Dvivida regularly defied the law and order of the country. Not only that, but he would sometimes pollute the female members of many aristocratic families by forcibly raping them.
While creating such great disturbances all over the country, sometimes he heard very sweet musical sounds coming from Vatika mountain, and so he entered that mountainous region. There he saw Lord Balaram in the midst of many beautiful young girls, enjoying their company while singing and dancing. He became captivated by the beautiful features of Lord Balaram's body, whose every feature was very beautiful, decorated as he was with the garland of lotus flowers. Similarly, all the young girls present, dressed and garlanded with flowers, exhibited much beauty. Lord Balaram seemed fully intoxicated from drinking the Varuni beverage, and his eyes appeared to be rolling in a drunken state. Lord Balaram appeared just like the king of the elephants in the midst of many she-elephants. This gorilla, by the name of Dvivida, could climb up on the trees and jump from one branch to another. Sometimes he would jerk the branches, creating a particular type of sound, gila gila, so that Lord Balaram was greatly distracted from the pleasing atmosphere. Sometimes Dvivida would come before the women and exhibit different types of caricatures. By nature, young women are apt to enjoy everything with laughter and joking, and when the gorilla came before them, they did not take him seriously, but simply laughed at him. However, the gorilla was so rude that even in the presence of Balaram, he began to show the lower part of his body to the women, and sometimes he would come forward to show his teeth while moving his eyebrows. He disrespected the women, even in the presence of Balaram. Lord Balaram's name suggests not only that he is very powerful, but that he takes pleasure in exhibiting extraordinary strength. So he took a stone and threw it at Dvivida. The gorilla, however, artfully avoided being struck by the stone. In order to insult Balaram, the gorilla took away the earthen pot in which the Varuni was kept. Dvivida, being thus intoxicated with his limited strength, began to tear off all the valuable clothes worn by Balaram and the accompanying young girls. He was so puffed up that he thought that Balaram could not do anything to chastise him, and he continued to offend Balaramji and his companions.
When Lord Balaram saw the disturbances created by the gorilla and heard that he had already performed many mischievous activities all over the country, he became very angry and decided to kill him. Immediately, he took his club in his hands. The gorilla could understand that now Balaram was going to attack him. To counteract Balaram, he immediately uprooted a big oak tree, and with great force he came and struck Lord Balaram's head. Lord Balaram, however, immediately caught hold of the big tree and remained undisturbed, just like a great mountain. To retaliate, he took his club named Sunanda and hit the gorilla with it, severely injuring his head. Currents of blood flowed from the gorilla's head with great force, but the stream of blood simply enhanced his beauty, like a stream of liquid manganese coming out of a great mountain. The striking of Balaram's club did not even slightly disturb him. On the contrary, he immediately uprooted another big oak tree and, after clipping off all its leaves, again struck Balaram's head with it. But Balaram, with the help of his club, tore the tree to pieces. Since the gorilla was very angry, he took another tree in his hands and struck Lord Balaram's body. Again, Lord Balaram tore the tree to pieces, and the fighting continued. Each time the gorilla would bring out a big tree to strike Balaram, Lord Balaram would tear the tree to pieces by the striking of his club, and the gorilla Dvivida would clutch another tree from another direction and again attack Balaram in the same way. As a result of this continuous fighting, the forest became treeless.
When no more trees were available, Dvija took help from the trees, some from the hills, and threw large pieces of stone like rainfall upon the body of Balaram. Lord Balaram, also in a great sporting mood, began to smash these big pieces of stone into mere pebbles. The gorilla, being bereft of all trees and stone slabs, now stood before him and waved his strong fists. Then, with great force, he began to beat Lord Balaram's chest with his fists. This time, Lord Balaram became most angry. Since the gorilla was striking him with his hands, Lord Balaram would not strike him back with his own weapons, the club or the plough. Simply, with his fist, he began to strike the collarbone of the gorilla. This striking proved fatal to Dvija, who immediately vomited blood and fell unconscious upon the ground. When the gorilla fell, all the hills and forests appeared to totter. After this horrible incident, all the siddhas, great sages, saintly persons from the upper planetary systems showered flowers on the person of Lord Balaram and vibrated sounds according to his supremacy. All of them began to chant, "All glories to Lord Balaram. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. By killing this great demon Dvija, you have initiated an auspicious era for the world." All such jubilant sounds of victory were heard from out of space. After killing the great demon Dvija and being worshipped by showers of flowers and glorious sounds of victory, Balaram returned to his capital city, Dwarka. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 66th chapter of Krsna, the deliverance of the Dvija gorilla. And that's the end of the Krishna book reading for today. Hare Krishna. Thank you for watching.